Dear God in heaven, we are so grateful for all that we have been given and grateful for this opportunity to discuss the affairs of the city of Washington City. We ask that you please bless us as we receive counsel and make decisions on the behalf of our citizens, and we may do so mindful of the constitutional powers that we have, that we may hold that document by the votes that we cast. We ask that you please bless those at this time of year who give so much, those who have the money, the resources, and the intellect to reach out and help those in our community. Please bless them with the understanding which they need to help more people. We ask that you bless us with a calm temper and with a keen understanding in all that we address this day, and we may see beyond our biases and see for the better good of our citizens and according to the laws which support us. We are grateful for this great nation, and please protect us from harm. Bless us, and we continue to support a nation that loves liberty and freedom. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Please rise and join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance for this great country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate that. Move on to item 1, approval of the agenda. We do need to delete a couple of items. 7A, is that correct, Denise? And what was the other one? Was there another one we needed to delete? Someone change your question? Kendall Turner.
Well, you tabled that item as a council. I wouldn't take it off your agenda. I'd wait till you get to it because they want to table it again. Is what he wants to do. He's not withdrawing it. He just wants it tabled for 2 weeks. His engineer was out of town.
So it's been a request to table that item.
Just to table that one?
Okay. Yes.
Was there another one, Denise? Tara?
Well, there is a preliminary plat. If you wanted, they did withdraw it. It's the preliminary plat for the Red Cliffs Resort. Is that what it's on there? That one, they've withdrawn that application. So if you wanted to, I was going to wait till we got to that one and let you know. But if you want to do it now, Mayor, that's fine too. But that's the one that is being asked to.
All right, no worries. And we'll just move ahead and approve the agenda as outlined. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Ward, aye. Clough, aye.
Granger, aye.
Ellison, aye. Turek, aye.
All right, thank you. Item 3, declaration of abstentions and conflicts. Any to declare at this time for the council? All right. Item 4, consent agenda to approve the minutes from the city council meetings of 11/13/18 and 11/14/18. Any questions or comments on those meetings?
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
I have a motion. I have a second.
Second.
Thank you. Motion and a second.
Ward, aye. Clough, aye.
Granger, aye.
Ellison, aye. Turek, aye.
Thank you. Those are approved. Item 5, preliminary plat. Continuation of consideration to approve the preliminary plat for Prada Pecana subdivision located at approximately 475 North, 100 East, applicant Craig Engel.
Waiting for my thing to boot up so I can give you the right. Here we go. Okay. Again, this item was tabled back at the council meeting on November 14th. The applicant was asked to include the dedication of the extension 100 East Street along the east boundary of this development. The applicant's brought in a new design for this preliminary plat. You can kind of see where they've added the curb, gutter, and sidewalk right there. If you see the 57.29, just follow, that's that hidden line that will be part of that final plat. And then what we've talked about, I've talked this over with the Public Works Director. What we'll do is let them build it. We're not going to build it out right now because it's going to nowhere, but then we'll go into a deferral agreement with them, and they'll have that on file when that time comes, that we'll need that in the future. If that ever comes about, then the applicant will be responsible then to put all that in at that time. So, but we're going to have him give everything to us at the final plat stage, just not build it in right now so it won't fall apart on us. Tends what happen if you build roads to nowhere. The asphalt breaks down, etc. So that's what this plat's been updated to do that. I hope that meets the intent of what's needed there. So that's why this was tabled. Again, I'll remind the Planning Commission reviewed it October 17th this year. The Planning Commission recommended unanimously to approve the preliminary plat for Prado Pecana subdivision onto you, the City Council. I'll be glad to answer any questions that the council might have on Prado Pecana.
Those conditions come up automatically, so they're not lost sight of in the future.
Right, they won't, especially with this one being on the preliminary plat. You know, and I'd recommend that you put it in your motion that, you know, it's probably what number item, just so we have it as the condition, make a 13th condition that which has been added to the exhibit on the plat be followed through with the final plat.
So talk to me a little bit about maybe the history of deferrals. That's worked well for us in the past in the city.
I hope so, Mike. If you had any train wrecks, I think it's a great tool to use. It really helps out a lot of folks at the time. In this
circumstance, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so how is that even initiated when they go back? Does somebody have to recall that that's on file with that? Or?
No, it's always kept. All the deferrals are kept in the Public Works Department, okay. And when it's ready for the road to be built, they just go through on their deferrals and know that that's there, and they give notice to the property owner. Here's the agreement, you know, the two of us went into to help you out at that time. We need the road now, so it's time to put that in. So
at that point, the developer is likely out of the picture. Well, potentially out of the picture, and it falls on the homeowners that are there. Yes.
I'm not sure, Mike. Yeah, so they would encumber that onto them, but it is recorded. It's a recorded document at that point.
So they would see that at the title phase, anyways.
Right. Because it is recorded. With all
those easy to read title pages and documents.
That's one I'm almost.
But will they know when they buy into that, when they become the owners? Will they know that that encumbrance?
Well, that'll be one of them that'll probably be shown to each and every one of them. I can, a title company would probably make sure they know that particular one. That would be a thing for them to be aware of on that. So
sometimes people get in HOAs and other things, and then only to discover they're responsible for roads they didn't know they were.
In this case, it would be you'd have 10 different property owners. If it gets to that point and stuff, you'll have 10 different ones. It won't just be one.
Yeah.
Because you will have a scenario of 10 private owners in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and they're not going to be HOA there, or yes.
No, there will be, because you have common area. So anything that has common area has to have homeowners association with it. So.
Councilman Turek, I know this is something that you gave a lot of good insight on the last discussion.
Yeah, I think this absolutely achieves what we were trying to achieve there. I appreciate the developer coming back with that. Yeah,
I appreciate that, Councilman Turek.
Questions or comments for Drew or the applicant? If not, are you ready to make a motion?
Mayor, if no one else has any further discussion, I make a motion for the continuation of consideration to approve the preliminary plat for Prado Pecana subdivision located at approximately 475 North, 100 East. With the 13th condition that the items included within this particular rendering are included in the final plat.
As it relates to the road dedication.
As
let's just-
relates to the road dedication,
Thank you.
you can always learn
There's a lot of
something new.
information.
As it relates to the road dedication.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second.
Turek, aye.
Ellis and I.
Granger, aye.
Clough, aye.
Ford, aye.
Thank you. That is approved. Item B, we will table that. Is that correct?
You have to vote for it.
It's just off. They just dropped the
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not going to table it, Mayor. We're just going to say, you can just, because it was on the agenda, we'll just say that the applicant has asked for it to be withdrawn. And
Okay.
it becomes dead.
All right.
So,
Then we move on to item C. Consideration to approve the Merritt Way preliminary plat located on Commerce Boulevard at the corner of Bluffview Drive and 1100 East. Applicant Quality Development LLC.
thank you. As stated, applicant's requesting approval of the preliminary plat for Merritt Way. The applicant is proposing 3 lots. The area of coverage, this is not a misprint, is 40.7 acres. The zoning designation at this particular spot is the service commercial, referred to as the C2 in the zoning ordinance. The surrounding zoning is open space, which is Interstate 15, and there is the Sienna Hills PCD to the north. There's R3 and PUD to the south, administrative professional to the west, and C2 to the east. The proposed subdivision conforms to the approved zoning. The request meets the subdivision requirements and other ordinances at this particular location. Staff reviewed the request and recommended approval with conditions of the preliminary plat. Planning Commission held a public hearing and reviewed it at their November 7th meeting. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the preliminary plat for Merritt Way onto you, the City Council. Of course, that's based on the conditions and the findings, and it's the standard 11. Again, there's not much going. They're just preparing this for future sale of commercial parcels. So, be glad to answer any questions that the council might have on this preliminary plat.
I would just like to see, is there a way you could take us to there on the satellite where this is at?
I'd be glad to. Fairly close. That's basically it. You can see Bluffview Townhomes there at the bottom of your picture. You can see Interstate 15. That's the Black Bear Diner right there. So it's just west of that, basically in that brownish area that's been. Now, what's not involved in it, let me just go up.
What's the status of that piece? Because it was. Yeah,
I just
it
pointed
got
out.
a conditional use, but hasn't that termed out?
It expired.
Okay.
Yeah. So anybody who wanted to build on that, that's not part of this subdivision, but that particular piece there is an R3 piece that had a conditional use permit for an apartment complex, but it's timed out. It expired.
So what's the road condition on that? It looks like we have roads at the front end of it. But
Yeah,
I
what's
don't
going to
see
happen,
anything
I'll
on the
go up
back
and
end.
let me just go up and kind of show you.
They're not proposing the road all the way through. They're just proposing to come down Bluffview and then that first piece. But that's not what this is showing. They're just showing to come off of Bluffview down there, but they're not showing putting that tie-in through. There's an access easement through it,
Oh,
but they're
yeah.
not showing improvements through it.
They're not at this point. That's right. They're just dividing it. Again, this is in preparation for a trade, this particular thing. So that's what I can tell you at this point. This is part of the agreement that the applicant, the Quality Development LLC, is preparing this and had to put it in these 3 lots. Public Works required because on this particular lot 2, there is an approved development going there. That's the trailer park. I mean, it's an overnight camper RV. Thank you. It wasn't coming to my head, but that's an approved RV.
No, that
Park
was
like
my,
the
that
old
was my
Redlands.
concern if they've got that.
Yeah,
other outlet,
that's
or if
being
they're just coming
responsible
all
for being
back through
built.
Bluffview.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll end up going back through Bluffview at this point.
So we're approving a preliminary plat, but we don't see the plans for the RV overnight parking. Will we ever see that?
That's already been, that's an approved project. It was part of this whole piece, and you won't see that. And it won't be needed. It's already been an approved project through the conditional use permit process. Just because it's in the zone that it's in, and it's, you know, they just had to do a CUP there, and they've already done that.
Is
So-
there a concern on the density having that single outlet?
I don't know, because part of their CUP meant they have to do a traffic study, and I don't know if that's been turned into Public Works or not yet. And I don't know if Mike would even know that at this point. They are showing this, but is this part of, is it going to be put in at this time, or? So I guess that was a yes by
So
the,
that-
Gravel or asphalt?
it's,
Okay.
Look at that.
I personally have worked with the developer on this, on quite a bit of this, the phasing of it, and where he's got the trailer park that's already approved coming in. This parcel here is in a trade situation, but they are going to improve that with asphalt. The curb and gutter will come at the time of development of the parcels on there. So that'll be part of the plat, that those improvements will be done. So to do 30 feet of asphalt, take care of some of our drainage issues.
Landscape.
Will be no landscaping on this section of it. I don't know that there's any. This section.
That has all full-blown landscape. 10-foot strip is required.
You see the little jog up about halfway through there. That's actually, I'm working on acquiring the right of way from UDOT. It was actually purchased by UDOT as a trail section for crossing of livestock. And so it's a weird little jog in there. So we're going to take that piece. So we'll have a nice straight line of the road going through there.
Any other questions or comments? Anybody ready to make a motion?
Now, I'll go ahead and make the motion that we approve the Merritt Way preliminary plat located on Commerce Boulevard at the corner of Bluffview Drive and 1100 East.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion and a second.
Eric, aye.
Felix and I.
Granger, aye.
Clough, aye. Ward, aye.
Can I ask a question about this? You know, we're heavy into some detail on another RV parking issue. And yet on this one, we don't even see it as part of the preliminary plat. We don't see any of that detail.
Yeah, this is not storage. This
No,
is come in and spend the night and leave,
I
kind of like
understand.
the old settlers used to be out here in the edge of town.
I get that. But wouldn't we have very similar concerns? Is it because
To me,
it's
it's two
a,
different,
what,
yeah, to me, it's two different products in my personal opinion, but
The difference is one of them's under plan development where we get to have a say
Yeah,
so
one
in
is
it,
a
and this
PUD,
one's,
one's
this
a-
one's entitled. It's
zoning, yeah,
entitled.
zoning.
Yeah, the difference is between zoning and subdivision.
yeah,
And you're in a subdivision state, you don't show, you know, like if a commercial development comes in, you won't show all the parking in the buildings and all those, all the particular, you just show the property boundaries of whatever that might be.
Well, yeah, but we got,
So-
we didn't see the CUP on it, but we're still gonna see the preliminary plat on it, right?
You
Unless
just saw
they're
the
gonna-
preliminary plat on
this
it.
is the pre-
This is the preliminary plat.
No. That's
Sorry.
for the overall site, but in lot 2, that's gonna have its own plat, and I guess unless they're not selling.
They're
it
not,
out,
it's,
all just
so he's buying
ownership.
one piece and it's all rental. It's like if someone came in and put an apartment complex, you wouldn't show them all because they're
Right.
under the one ownership. Yeah, you got it now. Yeah. That's why it doesn't show up on there, because we're just showing the lots that are being divided as part of the subdivision. CUP was granted a while back, like earlier this year.
Okay, so you're bringing up more questions for me. So you're saying it's all going to be for this, or just because the only part that's pre-approved for that type of parking is this
Lot 2.
is lot 2. Yes, thank you.
The other stuff will be C2 zoned, and
Right.
we'll wait to see what comes in with, as Mike said, when development happens, and then they'll be putting in all the curbs, the gutters, the landscape for that. You'll see those projects as they come, or at least the conditional use permit. It'll be through the planning commission. We'll see the conditional use permits on that.
Okay, thank you. I thought you said something different.
Yeah, lot 2's already been awarded their design. They can't change their design. They have to build it just like, and that's why that lot's got that road pre-built to that point. So, okay.
Thank you, Drew. Item 6, preliminary plat amendment. Consideration to approve an amendment to Amersville Estates preliminary plat located approximately 500 west, 2800 south. Applicant Mike Staley.
Thank you, Mayor. As stated, the applicant's requesting an amended preliminary plat, Amersville Estates. The applicant is now proposing 49 lots. The original approval had 50 lots to it. On the area coverage is still 20.47 acres. The zoning designation is the single-family 12,000 square foot, or we refer to the R112 zoning district. The surrounding zoning is RA1 to the north and east, with PUD-C to the south and St. George City zoning to the west. This amended preliminary plat approval request is due to the development that has come about with some of the adjoining property owners, directly the city of St. George. The proposed development shares a boundary with them, and originally it was given that St. George did not want a street down that property line. But has since changed their mind in the direction they want to go with that street. It's also helpful for you to know that there's a new LDS church being built along this boundary line down in kind of the southwest portion in that area, just to help you as you familiar with that particular area. Now, the request meets all the subdivision and zoning requirements as it relates to this area. Staff's reviewed the request, recommended approval with conditions to the Planning Commission. They reviewed it at their November 7th, 2018 meeting, held a public hearing, and their recommendation was a unanimous recommendation to the City Council for approval of the amendment to the Amersville Estates subdivision. So I added on the original findings, the original conditions stay with this because it still is an area that excessive roads are still going to need to become to allow for secondary accesses. So they have their choice to continue to the north or to go out to the east. We'll leave that up to whatever comes their way. So we did put that limit on them that we do with others, that 31 lots has been our magic number. And so as soon as they get to the 32nd one, that secondary access will have to be in. So that's part of one of the main conditions there. So with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have on this proposal or this amended plat.
I don't have any questions, just comment. I think this is a much improved, well, I think that's going to help. Anything we can do to help that traffic circulation and that part's going to be beneficial. So it's a positive.
Any other comments? Thank you, Councilman.
I assume those turnarounds are big enough for fire trucks and
Absolutely, yep.
I'm good with it.
Mayor, if there's no more discussion. More discussion? I'll make the motion that we approve the amendment to the Amersville Estates preliminary plat located approximately 500 west, 2800 south with the noted conditions. Thank you.
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
Ward eye.
Clough, aye.
Granger, aye.
Fellows and I.
Eric, aye.
All right, thank you. That is approved. Item 7A, we're asking for a motion to table this one, correct?
This is the Kendall Turner one,
Yes.
right? Yeah. Again, his engineer was out of town, so he couldn't update the exhibits. So we're just asking this be tabled till December 12th.
Mayor, I'll make the motion that we continue the tabling of the zone change request Z-18-14 from tonight to our December 12th meeting.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Ward, aye.
Clough, aye.
Granger, aye.
Fellows and I.
Eric, aye.
All right, thank you. Item B, continuation of the consideration to approve an ordinance for general plan amendment G-18-04 to change the land use designation from open space, medium density, and medium-high density to industrial, located approximately Landfill Road and the north end of Country Way, African Plum Holdings, ST LLC.
Thank you, Mayor. As noted, the 2-week holdover is completed. Items ready for council action. Just to remind you, the Planning Commission, of course, held their public hearing on it, made a recommendation of approval, and they did that unanimously of G-18-04 for this particular area as shown in your exhibit. I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have had over your 2-week period.
After looking into this, I'm excited to see a concept of more industrial expanding in our city. So this was refreshing and unique. I'm looking forward to seeing how this impacts the benefit of our city.
Having had no additional input, I'd move approval of the consideration to approve an ordinance for general plan amendment. On item B, 7B.
I'll second that, just noting that this is on the landfill side of Landfill Road, so it's on the far end. When it comes down to the other stuff that's closer in, I have some concerns, but where it's on the far side, the landfill side, then I don't, so I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second.
Just a quick clarification there. So you're, Councilman Bellison, you're saying you have concerns about other portions of that's owned by the same landlord, nothing on this plat or nothing involved with this?
No, not on this side, but that Sunrise Valley is down there. I know they're working on some of it, and I have some concerns if that came in industrial.
No.
But where this is on the, like, again, on the far side, on the landfill side, it butts up against the current county landfill itself. I have less concern.
Thank you for the clarification.
So we had a motion.
I have a motion and a second, correct?
Ward, aye.
Clough, aye.
Granger, aye.
Fellows and I.
Eric, aye.
All right, that is approved. Item C, consideration to approve an ordinance vacating lot 105 of Brio Phase 1A.
Apologize. What we're trying to do here is help get this recorded. You guys actually viewed this, recommended approval of an amendment to the plat, but because there's some vacation stuff, the county's being a little stickler on it, and I'm fine with that. Usually what we have to do is do an ordinance. So this is just a follow-up to get your vote on an ordinance that did the same thing you did a couple of weeks ago on seeing the change in this particular area on this. This is the lot that has the community center in Brio in it. And these two areas, you approve preliminary plats, you know, if you remember right, in this particular area, and then up here, 2 different ones. And we just have to do an ordinance so they can go in and do a vacation because that's how the county wants to see it. So
Can you help me understand what the issue is there?
well, the county's the overseer of all the reporting. I mean, they're the, you know, I just call it the state regulates the, you know, the subdividing of property within their state. The counties are given authority to take care of that, but it's not all in one place. So the county has certain regulations they want to do just for their purposes, whatever those are. They just like it on a vacation, have it come through. This is what they changed, I think, about 1.5 years ago. Wanted to have it this way, and so we called it an amended plat, but it's really because we amended because they were pushing pieces into 2 other areas. The county wants to call it a vacation so they can move it it just fits in their parameters better. You know, it's kind of their paper trail as they use it.
Yeah.
I don't know what just happened, but let me go back in. So that's kind of why we're here, just to officially have you vote on the ordinance that says we're going to vacate those pieces out of the exhibit that you've already approved to change in previous meetings.
So
So
by vacating it, it just allows them to redo that line and clean up the property.
right, and then the county will now record it under that provision of the ordinance that we're trying to get approved tonight. So again, it's kind of just doing a house cleaning thing for them and their purposes and their process. If you have any other questions, I'll be glad to try to answer it. That's in its simplest form. We're just doing this so that the applicant can actually take it into account and say, here's your ordinance, and they'll be able to record it.
If there's no more discussion, I'll make the motion that we approve ordinance. Mine says 2018-XX. 2018-28, an ordinance vacating lot 105 of Brio Phase 1A. I did. I just had X and X, so it was 20.
Second.
Motion and second.
Warren, aye.
Clef, aye.
Frazier, aye.
Ellis, aye.
Very good.
All right, thank you. That's approved. Item 8, public hearings. Item A, public hearing for consideration to approve an annexation for the Long Valley annexation located approximately 3380 East Washington Dam Road, south to Long Valley Road. Applicant Brennan Family Holdings, LLC. Jim Raines.
Okay. Sorry you didn't have a review in your packet. I've been waiting for the end of our time frame was yesterday. So we had to wait till yesterday to make sure that we didn't have any protest or anything for this annexation. It's gone through the 30-day period for the county, and it's gone through our 30-day period from the time the certification was done. So now we're at the point where we do the public hearing. We did receive protest is what they put on it, that it was a protest, but mostly it was a, what would you call it there? Just a letter, and I'll read the letter. It was sent to the county, and they're supposed to send it to us the same day, but we didn't get ours until last night. So it says, gentlemen may concern as owners of property located on the Washington Dam Road, and he lists his 3 properties that he owns. We hereby file our protest of the proposed annexation of our property to the Washington City. The Long Valley annexation boundary survey prepared by Bush and Gurgel indicates 1,517.38 acres of property. Included in this annexation does not include our property, and we are determined that to keep it that way. And it's signed by Lamar Miller. So it is, but they don't necessarily have the grounds to protest this, correct, Jeff?
There's 3 parties that can protest an annexation. Typically, you don't get it the night before, and a protest is supposed to designate this basis for the protest. So 3 of those that can protest under the statutes are a legislative, so an affected entity, usually another municipality adjacent to it. Or if it's in a county, the first class, certain private owners. The only other party, or only other entity that can protest is the owner of rural built property as defined in section 17B2A1107, which is kind of a specific definition carved out by the Utah legislature the last time it edited and amended the statute. I have no, at least the letter I saw as of about an hour ago, I have no indication of whether or not that is even a piece of that defined property, rural real property. So having said that, the
I'm sorry. can you clarify that you're saying you don't have a definition for rural property?
No,
or
we haven't. I don't know if it complies with it because
Oh,
the definition that is one that was just created, and I don't know if information was provided in that actual protest itself doesn't claim we protested because we are this particular classification of land. It's a very specified classification of land to be in it. So the protest hasn't designated other than I don't.
But the property owner is the owner of property that is currently rural and is obviously real.
Yeah, but
Share with us the term.
It's not,
let me read it to you because again,
Not included in the property, it's adjacent to it.
no, it's in the property.
it's not in the annexation.
The list I had, that makes it much easier because you can't protest if you're not in it.
Yeah, it's not included in the annexation property. It's the 3 properties as you come underneath. the freeway.
Additional council note, this letter just came in. It was
Yeah.
apparently delivered to the boundary commission of the county who receives it. They're the
That was on-
designated land use authority who receives, reviews, and determines boundary adjustment disputes. Having said that, they apparently got it some time ago. It was hand delivered here.
Yeah.
I saw it an hour ago, and so that's probably why it's not in your packet either. And so staff hasn't had a chance to even get together to take a look at it.
So, but the point is, the people who own the property who are protesting are not included in the annexation.
Correct.
I'm just looking at the
They're
exhibit,
just
like, I may be
adjacent to
wrong, but it says that they own property number 3, 4, and 5. At least in their letter, they indicated that. So I'm just looking at the exhibit, and again, I'm just looking at it as we're here, trying to go through it really quickly. Jim, clear it up.
I can maybe bring some clarity to this. If you remember back almost a year ago when we originally submitted the annexation, we included part of those properties that included that roadway. I then sent a notice out to all the owners, and those owners pretty universally, other than the Sampsons and the Hoskins, which are EO1 and the other one, everyone else did not want to be included in the annexation. We pulled all those properties out, we did the plat, came back to you, if you recall, with a new annexation plat that only includes us, those 2 properties in the BLM. So all those private owners you see along that road are not part of the annexation you're seeing tonight. So I think that may be why there's some confusion, because originally they didn't want to be, we took them out, redid it, and now submitted one that does not include.
You could have saved me reviewing my 5-minute review to have to stretch out the, because I'm just looking at the exhibit.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it still has it listed in there.
Yeah.
And given the fact that it just came in, I'm just looking at it
Yeah.
going, because I thought
Yeah,
that was the case also.
we list all the owners, both adjacent and us. So it identifies not only the property being annexed, which is our land, the BLM land, and the 2.
I just have an
Hoskins
exhibit,
and
it shows the
Sampson.
properties that were there. I didn't know that some of these weren't included in it. So that doesn't apply then, because they don't apply anyway then.
The only property that's being annexed is the Brennan family holdings. There's some BLM land. There's a piece owned by the Hoskins family and a piece owned by the Sampson family that they requested to be included. That's it. Nobody else is in the annex.
And that answers the question. So we have those 3 properties listed, we can do it. I just looked at our exhibit and thought, maybe we just didn't spot that because we've had it for, 45, 50 minutes. And those, because I thought they'd been pulled out, because I certainly have my accountants on this list, and I thought, I didn't think he wanted to be in there. I don't really want him doing my taxes next year. If I told him he wasn't included in it and he was going to be doing my taxes, and he may just have failed to tell me about my taxes. So we're good.
Okay, so the individual who wrote the letter
Right.
doesn't really have a legal right to actually protest.
They don't have standing to know because they're not included in the property that's being moved. If you're outside of the area, only an affected entity, meaning an adjacent city, something like that.
Because there's not enough clarity in the letter. We
Yes.
are assuming a little bit to
What-
say that that's what, that
I-
they're,
Yeah, I assume they're just trying to make sure they're not.
well, I do too. I just hate to.
When I talked to the county
Yes.
today, I didn't get to talk to Scott over there, but I talked to his assistant. And she was telling me that they were taking the opinion that it is just an opinion, and they wanted to make it strong enough so that people would understand that we're probably not going to be able to annex the stuff on the north side of the road anytime soon.
From the city's perspective, what are the pros and cons of annexation?
And just expand that into like a full instructional video on annexation,
But I guess,
dissertation.
yeah, I mean, on the pros, you get more land that's going to bring in more possible commercial, industrial, whatever, you know, of the uses that may come, that benefits and the taxes that come with that. The cons would be more area that you now have to supply water and sewer and policing and so on. So those are the things, the services, but it's not always a con.
Can I add to that a little bit?
No, it's my turn. No.
Well, I think municipalities are set up to deal with growth. Counties are typically not. And so, I mean, we provide services, and particularly here in Washington County, I mean, they've always kind of said, you want to grow, we need you to annex into a municipality. This is what we do. And so municipalities are set up to deal with growth, and that's why they annex in, and probably appropriately so.
Absolutely.
Because we are best suited to serve them than to have something kind of out there adjacent to the city that doesn't maybe get the services or served or has even some negative impacts upon the city just because they're growing and put in such a way that they can't get the provided services like we would give them.
Yep.
Maybe helpful to explain the master policy there.
What? No, it's just
Jim,
that-
are you trying to complicate this?
Sorry. Each city reviews and adopts what's called a master policy declaration, which is a map and an ordinance that you've adopted. It says these lands that are currently not in the city are lands that we want to come into the city. Hurricane's done that. You've done that. Your master policy declarations.
We call that an annexation policy.
Annexation policy. So when we look to acquire this land from the BLM through an exchange of lands up in the Red Cliffs Desert Reserve, we go look at all and do our research and say, does the city want it? Well, yeah, Washington City wants it because it's in your master policy declaration. So that's why we can't choose to come to Washington City for all the reasons that Roger said, because you're best service to do it. This doesn't guarantee us anything, but it's now in the city and we have to follow the city processes that come due for development. So you'll see us again for, zoning. You'll see us again for preliminary plat. You'll see us again for all the construction, that whole process. This is just which city. If I went to the county and wanted to develop, they would say, no, go annex to a city, because that's the policy the county has and the cities have adopted. So that's why we're coming to Washington City.
Thank you, Jim.
Sharing just a little past history, we've trued those lines up because we've had in situations that lines overlapped and cities ended up in battles over who should be where. And
From an
so
airport.
it's just, yeah, kind of still wear a few scars from that. But basically through that process, we trued up lines with St. George, we trued up lines with Hurricane, say, okay, futuristic annexations will occur. Kind of fits within what we can service, you can service.
If they're not in there, you have to amend your annexation policy plans to do that if someone outside that. But as Councilman Turk says, that we've all got together, Hurricane, St. George and us, and we're all fine with our new boundaries. There's no overlaps at all. We're, right up. Yeah. Yeah. They're definitely a hard line right down at the border. So
which of those lines gave them all the commercial along the bridge over there?
we don't want to bring that up.
The one that caused the scars.
Yes.
I was going to say, Councilman Turk can show you some of the stars.
That's where we tested out the boundary commission and the theoretical approach of how they work together with your cities. And what we've learned, it's nicer to create those boundaries together with their adjacent cities instead of just debating it in front of our boundary commission.
Well,
I
think that's a great point. And if I can just mention this, that the reason we wanted those bright lines is because of the overlap, that's when you get thrown into the boundary commission. And at the time, because of those overlaps, we got thrown into this third-party appeal process, which was the boundary commission, which would have never happened had we had the bright lines. Now, that's not uncommon. It's probably still common throughout most of the state, but that was a bloody battle, and it just taught us all that we just need to kind of try to get this all figured out and not have a third-party appeal process try to figure it out.
Actual landowners asked to come in our city, part of it.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Drew.
Now, the last, if I may,
Sure.
Mayor, when an annexation comes in, we need to attach zoning to it. Now, the applicants definitely want to throw a zone on it, but they want to, they're going to come in with a plan, but they want to turn it into a PCD, which I applaud, thankful for that. But we can't give them PCD because we have no plan. So we need to give them a kind of a holding zone right now, and it can be whatever you choose, just knowing that at a future date, they're going to want to come back at a zone change. We want that on the minutes with a PCD application at a future time, and to show the overall plan, and, the whole area will be master planned, or a good portion of it. But I don't want to say
It's not a
each.
PCD, can it come in a P zone?
You could put it under just a blank PUD without anything to it, or you could do it open space. You could do it that. You could do residential. Another one I thought it wouldn't be harmful is RA1, wouldn't be harmful, but PUD is what I talked about the other day, just the blank PUD zone. Again, it has no plan, so they really can't build anything until a plan's presented. So
Does that have a
if
time
you're
limit,
comfortable
though?
with that, what's that?
Don't they have a time limit if it's a PUD?
Well, this is the one thing we gave them. If they pass the 18 months, it just reverts to be plain PUD with no approved plan.
But
So
there's
it'll
no
stay
application like
PUD.
this anyway, so they could get
Yeah.
that.
And even if it goes 18 months and doesn't come in, it still stays PUD with no approved plan. And that's what it's kind of, what we're going to give it anyway, right off the bat. So I'm fine with calling it just PUD. And again, there is no approved plan, so we wouldn't give them any permits or any, construction drawings, because but it could be a good holding thing, and then they can come in and ask for the PCD. I'm not sure what time frame they're looking at. I won't put Jim on the spot for that. Oh, it sounds like they're working on that, so you'll see it soon.
I prefer
So-
something more towards those lines. I'm not a big fan of us making open space seem so confusing. This seems more in the
Yeah.
direction they're going, so I think a PUD would be more beneficial to our general plan.
We changed that too.
Well, just on our general plan, we did it in the general plan. We call it
But not on
not
the
yet
zone.
determined,
Okay.
is what we do, just so people aren't, when they do come in for that zone change, we just said, well, we put it under this. We have two kind of open spaces. One is places where we don't want to probably change at all, but others we put in there to be determined. In fact, I think this area has that on it right now.
Temporary open space, right?
So this
So-
could be beneficial as a not yet determined or a PUD.
Well, we have to give it a zoning, and the not yet determined isn't a zoning district.
So that's why we have to do some sort of.
We got to give it one of our zoning districts that we have. And
Seeing
so-
the motion and the movement in the direction of this developer, I think the PUD seems like the best thing unless there's anyone else that says otherwise.
Well, but even though this isn't currently part of the city, we, the general plan actually put a designation on this?
Remember, we talked about those annexation areas
Right.
and our policy. We go into those and we give them broad general
In
plan
the general plan,
designations. They can come in when they annex and ask for
Sure.
whatever, but because we've talked about them in meetings, previous, and so we'll give them these general plan designations. So
All right.
Can we have you pull that up and just kind of
on
point
the
out
on the real time view.
the county should have that out there marked, right, in the property? Or does that not show up in your map?
Going too far.
There you go.
It's right in there.
This goes from almost
No,
exit to exit,
well-
yes?
It's over further.
No, there's your highway, where your Highway 7 number is.
Oh, yeah.
And there's that interchange just to the left of it. So,
Do you have the property boundary highlights on that?
well, let's zoom in. Sometimes they'll give me, those lines start appearing. But as I go so far, because of the program in it, after you go so high, it won't hold on to it. You can see when I zoom in, you can start seeing, you can start to see lines of form, but
Let's see if you can highlight one of those. Let's see if it'd be interesting.
okay. We'll just kind of give and see if it'll,
There's part of it right there.
So that's split at the,
there we go. But my box is now in the way, but this is just part of that area that they're just annexing in a certain portion. You can see that a lot of that's BLM. It's off to the
South.
east, right? Yeah, it would be East.
So that's interesting. Is it common for the BLM to desire their property to be annexed into a city boundaries?
They're not picky
So they would do that, if they were to do that, only if they were looking to sell it.
because they own it and they know, I mean, their whole thing is after so long, they put it out for sale. Then they wait and they put more out for sale. That's the purpose of what they do. So, because they get a notice and they never show up and contest anything since I've been here. I don't think we've ever seen them. And we've annexed in, probably a dozen times, and
Should we do
A lot of
something to
them
try
had
and get them to
BLM.
show up?
I think their office is
We
too
had
far away.
another layer of
I think, isn't it?
government.
In I think Cedar City is the closest. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Drew. Any other questions for Drew? This is a public hearing. So any of you out there that may have a comment or a question or a concern you're welcome to come up. I'll give you 30 seconds.
While you're waiting on that, maybe just ask Public Works. Is that okay, Mayor?
Absolutely.
Just ask Public Works if they so do we have any plans as far as roads and bringing water and electricity into this? If this has not been part of the city at this point.
Yeah, they're all in our master plans.
Are they?
Water, sewer, power is going to be Dixie REA Power, transportation.
Yeah, power shouldn't be too hard.
We've been working with Jim on planning on how we're going to phase it. His phasing, we've been working probably a year on how we're going to handle bringing these things on.
And the expense for all that is allocated through just the improvements that they.
Impact fees,
Impact fees,
it's all an
thank you.
impact fee eligible. We're working with the developer on, impact fee credits on parts and different things to get the infrastructure out there.
So what impact fee credits are we looking at this point?
Well, we're looking on some transportation, possibly some water, possibly some sewer. Just depending, we're not far enough down the road to know actual cost, what's going to cost to get things out there. If they build the whole line, it showed in our master plan, we would give them credits for that. That's how we've worked with other developers in the
I
past.
see.
And they would get the credit to what's actually shown that's in our master plan.
Thanks, Mike. I received no takers unless Jim's going to be a
I'll
taker.
just give you a quick, maybe just answer some of the questions. We acquired the 600 acres that we own in Long Valley through a land exchange with the BLM for land we own. As you know, Bob's the largest landowner in the Brickland.
Oh, that was part of this deal here.
That's
huh?
where we got this land.
Oh, interesting.
So we're probably, us and the other two landowners in the reserve are the only ones that really can trade for BLM land. Otherwise, it's got to go through
A process.
surplus property sale type thing. So this is the one piece we, after about 9.5 years, that we were able to secure through land exchange.
Yeah.
The other ones just didn't work. So that's how we acquired the land. We are annexing, we owned that ridge line, which is the big ridge between Long Valley and Warner Valley. So we actually own right to the top of the
Which is
ridge.
represented pretty well on the pink line on the north there, right?
This is the ridge line. So this
Oh.
dark line, the reason it's a dark line is because it's a very
Ridge.
steep property. We own from that ridge line to the Southern Parkway and then to the south where the power lines cross. So we basically own. This is BLM land that we could exchange for because the soils and the property we want. So we didn't take it. It stayed BLM land. They did sell one part of it. I don't remember the Walt Plum subdivision's name. Shooting Star was part of that BLM put out for sale, and Walt Group bought that. So the reason we took BLM land in to your current boundary is because annexations don't allow you to leave islands or peninsulas. So we had to take it over to your boundary so it'd be a contiguous boundary so you didn't have a funny little piece of land up there. That's why we took the BLM land in. We also did at the city's public works request, took the land down below us, down to the 3650 interchange, which is BLM land, so that all that land for that future interchange would be in the city and that you'd have jurisdiction over it. So that's kind of the thought process of where the boundaries go.
So I don't think there's too many land challenges. The area, like you said, that one area probably wasn't very tempting to you because there was some topography challenges there.
Bad soils.
Are you, that's not really part of this conversation, but just interesting there. Have you looked at that already to see what's in the soil out there? Any challenges?
Yeah, we've done full soil tests, we've done traffic studies, done drainage studies. We've got all that stuff together. Long Valley does not have any bad soil. It's in good shape.
And the traffic studies, they don't come into us at this point.
Those will come to you with our PCD. The PCD will have all that included in it. That's the beauty of a PCD. It even goes a step beyond a PUD because we have to submit all our engineering technical stuff to you at the zone change rather than at the development stage. But we're fine with that. Yeah, but this project is negotiated with one builder. It'll be a single builder building all 600 acres. It'll be a master plan project. And we have right now, we really believe we'll come in with probably about 200 lots to start and about a $7.5 million clubhouse. So you'll be excited. It won't be just a bunch of convoluted subdivisions. It will be a very nice project. And it's called the Trails at Long Valley. And you'll have a lot of trails material. That will be the main amenity.
Oh man, Merry Christmas.
I didn't see anything yet.
Yeah, you'll see it, but that's all for another discussion. But I just, sometimes you bring land in, you don't know what you're getting.
I was kind of wondering more about school and church.
We don't know. I'll answer that. I can't really say what because we're negotiating it, but you'll see our type of development and that'll answer that question for you. Church, yes. School, probably not. No other questions. I'll shut up and let you guys get out of here. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
You've been working on this for 9 years. And you probably want some more bureaucracy out of this, don't you?
Yeah, Washington City compared to the federal government and our county. Breath of fresh air.
You tell us we need to work harder?
All right, if there's no other questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Move closing of the public hearing for the annexation in the Long Valley.
Second.
Motion and second.
Turk, aye. Valentin, aye.
Granger, aye.
Bluff eye.
Ford, aye.
Okay, we'll make a decision at the annexation part of it. Item B, public hearing for consideration to approve an annexation for the Whitworth addition located approximately 2250 south between 20 east and 240 west. Applicant Matt Ferguson.
Do we, excuse me, Mayor, but do we on that last one need a designated recommendation for?
What you would recommend? You can do that.
We can do it the next phase.
Yeah, just the couple items down.
Oh, it's down.
9,
Yeah.
on your item 9.
Okay, this annexation was following the same steps as one that you just barely heard. We didn't have a chance to do a review because it wasn't quite past the time frame. We've received no complaints, received phone calls for people asking about it, wanting to know what was going on, but no objections whatsoever. They're requesting an R112 zone on this property. This is over here. Is what's adjacent to it to One Direction. I can't remember. It's right in the middle of the two of them. Yeah. It's trying really hard. There you go. That long green spot right there between 20 east and 240 west. Like I said, we've received no comments. The county hasn't told us that there was any protest or anything, so.
Is that am I seeing the shading right? That's the current city boundary in yellow.
Yes.
That jogs around
Correct.
that property.
Correct. Goes right around it.
Can you zoom out on that? I just be interested to see the rest of that area for the city boundary.
Mr. Adams's property
It's
to
just
the
the Adams
right,
Fields, basically.
and then the corral with the cows
Oh, really? Can you keep going? I'm just, remember how far down that goes. It goes out, clear out to the, oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, did it? Yeah.
That green area is an island. Sure is. How did that happen? Never.
You're bringing up a lot of ugly stuff tonight.
Yeah, it's one of those days.
What did Elsa say? Let it go.
Let it go. Let it go.
Councilor Granger is finding an unusual amount of happiness at this. It seems like she clearly wasn't at those awfully tense meetings.
Any other questions for Denise?
12. Are there any other questions?
Any
I
other
can answer
questions?
for anyone?
All right.
Okay.
Any questions for Drew? If not, I'll open it up for a public hearing. Ten, 9, 8, 7.
34 seconds left.
I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion and second.
Very guy.
Bellis and I.
Granger, aye.
Clough, aye. Ward, aye.
Right, thank you. We'll make a decision here in a few minutes. Item C, public hearing for designation from low density LD to medium density ND to allow a 2-unit duplex on each lot located at the intersection of Washington Dam Road and Washington Fields Road. Applicant Matt and Jeremy Green. Like a hot potato.
And then I'll keep trying to get this back, but just to get started, the applicant is seeking to amend the general plan land use map. They're seeking to amend 0.893 acres over 3 different parcels that you see on your screen at that time, those particular 3. They're in between the 2 homes that are right there at the intersection of Washington Dam Road and Washington Fields Road. And they've been vacant for quite a while. They've had for sale signs on them, I think, ever since that intersection went in, trying to get these sold to somebody. The applicant is seeking approval to have the designation change from the medium density residential for the possibility, not from, but to the medium. It is, the general plan right now is low density residential, which allows for an R110 or an R112 zoning district. They're seeking to go to the medium density residential, which allows for R16, R18, or R2 lots. And they're ultimately seeking, if the general plan is approved, to then go for a zone change to an R2, which allows for 2 dwelling units on 1 lot. And that's the purpose. Now, they're not voting on the R2 tonight, just to see if they can get to the medium density residential. The surrounding general plan land use designation are low density residential to the north, south, and east, and open space to the west, which is the knoll itself, the Nyson Hill. There is what that open space is. The surrounding zoning is R112 to the north and south, R112 and RA half to the east, and Ag 20 to the west, which is part again of the Nyson piece and Nyson Hill. Applicant's wishing as stated to amend this for future development. I think I've gone over what the zones are in there and why they're seeking that already. The Planning Commission held a public hearing and reviewed this request at their November 7th, 2018 meeting. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval for the proposed G-18-05 to amend the general plan land use as outlined in your exhibit and on your screen. And I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have on the proposed area.
My only concern on this one, Drew, is seeing how the houses furthest north on there is compensated by having a very busy road next to it, is having a beautiful block wall. Are we going to be discussing any concepts of block walls and what's going to be used to mitigate, any impact from the road at this point, or is that later on?
They already received a conditional use permit. The original owners did, the family, which I can remember what their names were right now, but they asked that there be block walls because they were going to think about developing those lots. And so they came in and got a conditional use permit for the home on the far north and their home. They lived in the one on the south, and got a conditional use permit to have block wall go up to 8 feet. It's either 8 or 9 feet approval to help mitigate some of that out. And so that they received a conditional use permit. Since they already put in 2 of them, that conditional use permit still stands because it's already, it's still, if they choose to use that. So.
Thank you.
This is public hearing. Why don't you come on up, sir, and when we're through with this guy.
My
Are we
question
through
has
with
been
this guy?
answered. Thank you very much.
Thank
Any other questions?
Any other questions? Right. This is another public hearing, so those of you that have a concern or comment, come on up and have a chance to express it to the council. Please state your name.
Martin Hanson, I live across the street from the units. And I was just wondering, on those 3 lots, you can put 1 duplex on for each lot?
That's what their request is.
No, not 2 duplexes per lot. It'd be
1 duplex per lot.
So it'd be 2 families.
2 housing units.
It'd be 6 families.
6 total. Yeah.
They would access it off the south driveway of that.
They access off that
Come
private
back
drive.
into them.
Correct.
Have to park on the back.
But this is really just an example. I find it a little bit difficult to interpret there. It's a little fuzzy on my. Make that.
Name is Markle Massey. I live on Meadow Lane. My wife and I are retiring in January, and so we're living in Salt Lake right now. This is the second time we've come down to speak, and I appreciate the notices that have come to us to be able to do this.
Which street address is yours?
Meadow Lane. So
What number?
657. So I'm 4 houses away from Washington Fields Road. Previous to last month's meeting for the adjoining Nyson Field property, a gentleman in a group setting coached us on, when you go to the city council, don't complain, and to speak about the things that need to be resolved. And so that's what I did. When I received the notice here, I thought I may have walked away from the previous meeting without you knowing that I opposed what was happening. So I want to say tonight that I'm opposed to this for a couple of reasons. And that thought process, if I'm opposed to it, then I think it would be helpful for you to know other of our neighbors. So last night, my wife and I walked around in about an hour, asked everybody that was home on Meadow Lane, and gathered signatures, and I'm happy to leave that here with you if you'd like. 100% of the individuals that I spoke to signed the petition, if you will. It's not a petition to do anything, but 100% of the people on Meadow Lane were against this. So out of curiosity, how about the 47 acres? And they were all opposed to that one. So I'd like you to know that we're opposed to this.
Can I ask on what? Why?
The reason that I'm opposed to it, and what everybody told me last night, and this was unanimous with the group, is the density of the homes in all of this area is, and I don't know what the official designation, I think it was referred to as low density. We don't want to see this area changed. And here's my thought process. In the general plan of Washington City, it speaks about in the amending of a plan, there's 4 things that are involved. Number 1, is it in harmony with the land use ordinances? And if you look around, it's a residential area. And so, yes, it meets that requirement. It's a land use for residents. Is it in the best interest of the city? Is it in the best interest of the city government? Or is it in the best interest of the people who live in the city? In my opinion, when we have chosen to live in an area where there's large lots and larger homes, then when people come in and want to develop my neighbor's property, and I'm right there, and this is adjoining our subdivision, then in my opinion, that is not in my best interest. So is it in the best interest of the city? To some people in the city, yes, but if everybody on our street said they aren't interested, then I'm going to say it's not in our best interest. Number 3, that it promotes the general welfare of the community. Is changing the density from low density to medium or to high density or whatever is going to happen, is that in the general welfare of our community? And my answer is no. When smaller, more dense homes are brought in, if they become more affordable, then the people that are moving into those are not able to take care of their homes. And you see it anywhere you go, at the conception, at the building, at the initial move in, it looks great, but you come back 10, 15, 20 years later, and that's what we're doing. We're retiring. This is our home. We've chosen this. Is it in the best welfare of the community? And my answer, no, it isn't. The 4th one, maintains or improve the quality of life of Washington citizens. It doesn't improve my quality of life to have homes packed in tighter and have homes that are going to not be maintained as well as everybody in there. In the 2.3 in the land use plan, it speaks about that, and I'm paraphrasing here, that it reflects existing zoning. And the words used in this paragraph where the character of the surrounding area is relatively established. And in my opinion, if you zoom out, you see what the relative character of the surrounding area is. This is not a high density, medium density. This is a low density area. If you look at the general plan of the whole city, and we went to the office this afternoon, and the map on the wall is an older one. There's a couple of red dots down in the south end of the valley, but this is all yellow, low density areas. It also speaks in the general plan that when you transition densities, that the general plan says that should be no more than 1 category higher or lower than the surrounding there. So to go from a low density, and I don't know what ours qualifies on Meadow Lane, but to this right directly across the road. And the Hansons are here, Mr. Hanson that just stood up. He's like right directly across the road. And I believe that isn't there. And so why am I opposed to this tonight? I'm not opposed to the people who are wanting to develop it. I'm not opposed to the area being built. But what I am opposed to is what appears to be a concern, and that is that anybody that comes in, as long as they propose something and they take care of the odds and ends, that zoning can be changed. And my fear is if I'm retiring and this is the home I've chosen to retire in and live out my life here, then when Kimball dies and this property is sold, then is this field right behind my house, is that going to become a mobile home park? Or, you know, is this zoning going to be something that is just willy-nilly changed without these things? And that's why I'm here tonight, is to express this conceptual idea of changing the zoning.
So is your concern about that if we change the zoning on this, that will set a precedence for changing zoning
That is my
to
fear.
the other?
Yes, sir.
I mean, so okay, but I'm having trouble seeing the correlation between this. Specifically looking at this property, it's a bit of a difficult property. It's bordered by a hill on one side and a busy road on the other. And I'm having trouble jumping from, if that zone changes here, that it will affect other zoning. I mean, the best way to affect that is to make sure you get out and vote for city council members who talk about and want to see the types of improvements and changes in the city that you want going long term. That's how your city is run, and that's how this is maintained. The city has guidelines on that, and you've read some of those. But let me jump to this other point here of clarification. So, are you suggesting that because the property would be lower income, or excuse me, lower value than the properties around it, that would necessitate, or it would automatically be not maintained?
I would say yes. My experience, having lived in these types of subdivisions where they're affordable homes, coming back 10, 15 years later.
I think one of the views of the city council, it's something we talk about a lot, is having properties that will hold their value. I think there's ways to do that. There is a need for housing for people of all incomes, and I personally take some pride in Utah that I think that we do a really good job of mixing socioeconomic areas within very close areas. I'm not sure if I agree there. So again, I want to come back to this because I'm enjoying some of your points. But so that property there seems difficult to me as a landowner. It's, like I say, a busy road and a hill. What would you like to see there?
What would I like to see? I would like to see,
as a city planner or a city.
I would like to see, if I was interested in purchasing that property, and I was interested in what is the relatively established.
Well, but again, so
I would like to see a home that's comparable in size, and instead of having 3 lots, I'd like to see.
It's really not my point, or not my business. But no, I get it. I'm just saying that it's a difficult property. I'm not sure that a very high value home, like say your home, would sell in that location.
I agree.
Because it has trouble with the hill, and then you've got a property that doesn't sell, it sits. Now it's really not maintained.
I agree. Because I would not purchase that lot because it's not a valuable lot.
It seems to me that if we put a property there that was a rental or something that someone would, that's maybe a starter home. It's maybe something that we have a better chance of having that property lived in and maintained by setting it to the value of what might fit a possibly difficult circumstance than if we required them to build a very large home there.
And I understand.
And this is my opinion, but I am interested in your response to that, because it's just my thinking.
I understand from the city government standpoint. If this is a developable lot, then let's let it be developed, and let's let people move in. Let's let this be something that's a benefit to the city. And I understand that concept.
Well, I'm not. So I am. I have a trouble thinking of myself as a politician, and this is. Maybe I'll get to the point where that comes easy to me, but I got just curious to have you respond to that as far as. I almost think it has a better chance of being maintained, loved and lived in, and being a valuable part of the city. No, not an empty lot, because honestly, as I drive past it right now, I dislike it.
Yeah.
I would like to see something there.
Yeah.
I would like to see something improve that, because
Even a block wall right now would look better than what's there.
yeah. So but then again, I'm looking at long term, and that's my thinking is, look, I plan on being here with my family long term. I'd like to see this be something that I don't regret, and is a part of our city.
I think it's fair to say aesthetically, a twin home, you probably wouldn't know that it's I mean, it'll just look like a single structure.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, really
Agreed.
the argument or the concern, and a value wise, you probably would have a higher value on that home than a single family home across the street, because there's, you know, larger in size or whatever else.
Agreed.
Really, for me, the concern is, are 3 more families in that area going to be a high density situation, right? I don't know that 3 families would cause a traffic concern or a problem. Or,
Can I ask a quick question?
well, it's already entitled to 3, so it's 3 more.
It is.
6 total.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
Isn't the look going to be the same? Isn't it going to be a block wall?
Well,
Yes.
From the block wall and
from the planning commission, I won't speak for
Isn't it
them.
going to be have essentially the same look?
From the planning commission, I won't speak for the property owners,
That
but
was
they
the
were
question.
not looking to put it at 8 feet. They were looking to do something a little more decorative with it. I think
Well,
they're
I guess my
think they're
question
right.
is,
It's a good
whether it's
point,
a
though.
single family home or a multi-family home, don't you anticipate a block wall is going to be there? Isn't that going to be the look?
Well, but even if it's an 8-foot block wall, it's not going to hide the entire structure of the house, you know? So it's going to be a 2-story home.
It will.
I understand, but
Right.
most of the time, the appearance of the home is not the second story to the roof that becomes the problem.
Sure.
Challenge is, well, they don't maintain the yard, they don't they don't clean up after themselves. I don't see whether it's a single family home or a multiple family home, if that even be seen from there, but I may be mistaken. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
So going back, if I could, going back to my thought process, the concept is what I'm here to oppose tonight. You know, that of changing densities in an area where we've chosen to select a home where all of the area around there, all of the homes in the area are in that low density range. And so my concept is that I don't like to see all of this be this kind of a scenario where right now it's this.
Your concern is the creep that may occur because of that.
I do, you know, and my thought is getting the notice about the Nice and Field property and what a massive thing that was compared to this one. I'd choose this one in a heartbeat versus that one. But the concept here is that it's not what the neighborhood, what the area is, and that's what I'm opposed to.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being a part of this conversation, and thank you for engaging with my questions. I
On the
appreciate
election
that.
part, I did vote for those of you that are on here that were in my district, so I appreciate this opportunity.
Thanks, Mr. Massey.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Hello again, Kathy Massey, Meadow Lane. And he has said it, but we don't feel it's compatible. We are more concerned with the other property, the 47 acres. But it looks like, okay, my problem is I'm hearing from a lot of people that you don't listen. That's a big concern. And
My wife didn't tell you that, did she?
maybe.
I don't get that. I get that too, and we hear that as well. But, you know, the challenge too is try to listen to the public that come and you know, provide input. The guy that owns the property also has a say-so
Yes.
and has a voice. And the guy that actually owns the property has more rights than everybody else in this room.
Why?
So we're trying to find that.
Why
balance.
do they have more rights? Because they have money?
No,
Because
because they own the property.
Because of money. Because of money.
Well,
In all
It's
fairness,
simple as
before
if
that
your neighbor
goes
came and
down,
wanted to dictate what you could do with your property. you'd be
yeah,
happy
it's the
about
same
that.
reason why you're here with the rights that you have.
It's a similar situation.
It's very similar in a fair play. It's, I wouldn't say it's that level that's throwing money in people's faces, but it is a distinguishing factor of an American citizen that we hold very important in our discussions.
Okay,
Is right of
but if you had townhomes coming in your neighborhood in your back or front yard,
I have
Would
4
you
duplexes
approve
in
that?
front of my
Say
house.
that again.
So
Had what coming in?
continue on.
I just missed it.
townhome.
Townhomes, yeah.
To make sure you're fair with this, I have 4 duplexes in front of my house.
And do you love it?
I actually love my
They're
neighbors.
great people.
Well,
I live
yeah,
right around
but
the
do you
corner.
love having townhomes?
I actually have no problem, so you're not going to get far with that being an
The
argument on
interesting
me.
thing to me about the townhomes, and I have had homes, I've lived in neighborhoods where I don't have townhomes are not very far from me now, and I've lived in
I
neighborhoods
have
where they are.
too.
And I've loved some of those neighbors, and a lot of that has depended on who the renter was, who was renting that.
Well, and I've lived
whether
in
or not they-
areas with townhomes. In fact, we lived in Provo in a townhome.
But I've had the same thing with other homes that weren't townhomes, and struggled with other neighbors who lived in beautiful homes that were.
But I don't feel the Fields is compatible.
Well, I
It
do.
So let me
did
ask
not
you this
used
question
to
though,
be.
because this is kind of
It
the
did
same
not
question I
used to be.
posed to Mark is to me, I look at this and this is a little bit of a problem area.
It
And in
is.
some cases, it's a problem area where, because I am now working for the city and representing the city as, the city had some hand in this as we put the road in there. It's pinched in there. I would like to see something done with it that could be nice long-term. Plus you have the landowner who owns that. I feel like I don't necessarily want to get tied up into a lawsuit over that property.
But did they change it from a 2 to a 3?
What do you mean?
I heard it was 2 lots and then they changed it to 3. Am I not?
So it's three
correct?
lots now. and
That's what
they're
we were verifying in the
They're
beginning.
asking for it to be changed, the zone changed so that they could put duplexes on each of those lots.
Okay.
Which I have to admit, to me, it sounds reasonable. I think that will help them sell it. I think that will help them have it occupied, and I think that will benefit the overall neighborhood.
The look of those duplexes will be a bigger look,
Than a home.
than your homes. Okay. The reality is, however, if he put homes on there instead of the duplex homes, he probably couldn't sell that property. He probably just couldn't sell that property. He's probably doing that because he thinks he can sell the property with that fence and that busy road and that hill. He could probably sell it to the duplexes, which are individually smaller, but they're connected. And so they'll look really nice from your property.
Okay, I won't. Yeah, I'm worried more about that 47 acres with those townhomes.
And
If
we're
you're
focusing on where we
changing
are.
Let you
this,
talk
You're
about
changing
that.
them.
We're gonna
Anyway.
have that public hearing on December 12th.
Yeah,
so-
but we might not be here.
Oh.
Road.
Write us an
Where's the
email.
road? Is the road going to be by the Nyson Hill for them to get out?
Comes up to the north.
Yeah.
But they're not going to dig into Nyson Hill.
This is where they're all gonna have to enter now.
Oh, out that little
No.
driveway.
No,
Oh, they tied that through. I thought they needed to grant an easement.
because I was going to ask about fire.
Okay, that's good.
I really appreciate the way they're discussing this because I felt how your husband laid out the 4 conditions of what we do to consider any type of a change in a transition density. Considering the land use, the best interest of the city, promoting general welfare of the city, and maintains or improves the quality of life of our residents. We have little places that have great care that makes us look at concepts of what would best fit the needs of the whole and also within the needs of its ability to be developed. We don't represent anyone other than people who live here in Washington City. However, due to our responsibilities, we consider the capacity and the unique opportunities that exist to develop. Considering my first original question on this was the concept of how it would interact with the main road right there, which is you're getting a new neighbor with a block wall. Whether it's a single family residence or a double residence, you'll have a beautiful block wall more than like likely to continue what's there. The structure of how it interacts with the neighboring houses, sometimes developments, the one you may not be able to speak on later on, carry gravity that impact things around it. I really appreciate the feedback of the petitioning and the voices and stuff. One of my concerns on this when I look at it is, will it pull in, does it really impact where you are, and does it impact rights of property, function of our city, services rendered, everything else, the big picture? And I appreciate your feedback on this. I'm kind of developing an opinion on it, but overall I feel that it's not this, it's function. Does this function within our city? Will it truly impact as much as you have the concern? And I have to weigh that. I have the money part. Trust me, I'm a teacher. I don't have much of that. So, but I do care about how it interacts with your community, and I want to make that very clear. We're trying to see the big picture and how it truly can be beneficial to improve our city, to extend that nice gray block wall.
So I have just one question that's my main concern.
Okay.
If you approve these townhomes, are you more likely to approve the townhomes on that 47 acres?
No, that's
Will
a
that
very good
have
question.
any impact on that?
This
Keep in
application
mind-
for me doesn't affect that application in 2 weeks.
Even
separate
later, when
applications.
you say, well, you're already getting townhomes, so it's
No,
already there.
They're different applications. Now, I'll be honest with you. I don't have a concern with the townhomes in the 47 acres. At some point, we need to have some options for our younger families. Otherwise, what we're doing is we're shipping our kids out. You know, I started in an apartment. I moved into a small house. I
Yeah.
moved into a bigger house.
We all did.
If we don't have those options in the fields, my son's 20. I get to send him somewhere else away. I'd rather have him right around the corner than, you know, in a different city.
Why change the fields? Why we know that is the best area in all of St. George area. The fields has a reputation. You're changing that. You are changing that.
I don't know a place that hasn't been changed because of the growth that we're all experiencing. I don't know an area that hasn't been changed. Okay. And
But
and
do
yes,
they
you
have to
you
go
are
to
being
townhomes?
changed because people have land and they want to develop it, and it's painful. I live in Green Springs. If you go out there, you'll see how painful this discussion is. Okay. But it is the reality of people who own land who want to develop it. Our need for some mixed use somewhere, because we have people who cannot afford housing in our city. And we're trying to look at that, okay? We're not looking at it to your expense. We're looking at it as a city. We've got to find mixed use and opportunities for starter families and younger families in our community among all of the retirees and older. I'm one of those, okay, people that live in our community. If we do some mixing, there will be far less impact than if we create slum areas. Okay, it's gonna be, actually can be delightful. I can buy a starter home, move to a mid-sized home, then move into a larger home and live in the same area, live in the same community. That would be preference. We're getting our plans quoted back to, and our land use things quoted back to, read our general plan and talk about our desire for some mixed use, our desire to take care of all the people that live in Washington City. We talk about money, that's almost offensive, okay, because we're not
for the
volunteers.
developer. I
Well,
mean, it is about money.
Well, it's
Come
their
on.
land. It's their land. They have rights too.
Well, they're
That's
doing
just
it for
been
money.
expressed. Well, and if it
We
was
know
your land,
that.
you'd want to
Everybody knows
develop
that.
it. Sure.
So, you know,
Ma'am, and I hope I don't come across as offensive, and I don't mean this.
you're fine. I'm not easily offended, obviously.
You know, we had on that same parcel, we had a lot of people really wound up about the idea of some commercial, right?
Yes.
And there's a lot of people that say, hey, we don't want to have any commercial. I can tell you, for all the people that are in the room, there are a ton of people in downtown saying, quit forcing all the commercial in our area. Because if you're not going to allow any of it in the fields, then we force it up into the downtown, and the people that live in downtown are like, we've had enough of it. It needs to be distributed out a little bit. You know, right now, all of the multifamily projects are in the downtown area pretty much.
Well, and when we think commercial, we think, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have Walmart in my backyard. Not neighborhood commercial. The neighborhood commercial is there to service your neighborhood. Okay, it's there to service your neighborhood. Hopefully it's a dentist, a doctor, maybe an ice cream parlor. You know, I don't
Or
know.
a little place to go
I'm
eat
sure we'll have
sandwiches.
lots of discussion about that, but it's there to service the neighborhood so that you don't have to travel to get some of the services that you might be after. That's what the nice one is. It's neighborhood commercial. You know, wouldn't that be delightful if it could be an asset?
You know, can I speak just for a second just about this council? And I know the Masseys, and they're wonderful people. And, you know, I've sat here and watched a lot of councils come and go. And these people are you. They live in these neighborhoods. They are part of this community. In many cases, they've been part of this community far longer than many of the people here. When I find that individuals get up and say, well, they're not listening to me, what they really mean is they didn't agree with me. And the difference between who speaks at that podium and who sits up here is a matter of perspective, because they had to stop being concerned just about their neighborhood and just about what the impacts might be upon their home. Council is empowered and needs to make decisions for the weakest of the community, for those who need their guidance just as well. And they've talked about a few of those, and some of those are income issues. They still have a responsibility. That's the difference, is the perspective. They have a responsibility to them, which is very different than people who don't have that same perspective. And that's hard to understand at times. And so sometimes we become very critical of that. And we say, well, they're just not listening to me, or they're trying to change something to my expense, or I'm going to be uncomfortable because of this. When in fact, these are our citizens that have chosen to take on this very difficult job, not for pay, I can promise you that, and not for the abuse that they typically get, but they have a responsibility to figure out where is our kids and our grandkids going to live, and how do we mix our communities in such a way as that we build community, not segmented sections of our community. And so I get a little defensive about that, because I've sat through lots of council members that have come and go, and every one of them have done it for the love of their community and have had the greatest desire. They've got a myriad of laws they have to abide by, which people that come up to the podium don't have to worry about that. And so I get a little protective of the council, because they do an exceptionally good job. And not, I don't think, just for you, because I do think they do that, but I think they do it for even the weakest among our community, to try to help them as much as they can too. And so if you can help people understand that really at times it's just a perspective issue that is the issue. That's and have an appreciation of that. I think that helps. And in this case, it's a problem property for us. They're trying to figure out, you know, how's the best that property owner can have some value, and yet we try not to, you know, impact in a negative way. Any change probably somebody can say is an impact. Nobody wants to change. We never want to change anything, but change is inevitable. And so they try to balance that out. And so anyway, I didn't mean to get preachy, because you don't deserve to be preached to on that issue. I do just get a little protective of the council, because I watch how hard they work and the challenge they have to try to balance all these decisions, but it is with good intent.
One final comment. We've had some of our neighbors move already because of what's going in, and we heard when we walked the neighborhood, more will move because of this. I just hope you.
This project specifically, or the 47 acres of the nice
47
fields?
acres.
Yeah.
A chance to get some good new neighbors, and if they're going to move over those things, you get good new neighbors. That's what I say.
I hope not.
I take your point. If you won't tell anybody, I'll admit to you that I fear change, and that's really what keeps me from working at a cash register. No, nothing.
Thank you for your comments.
My kids do too. That's why I get all their change. We've changed a lot in 6 years. We've been traveling and my husband hates it, but so I love it. I love meeting new people, but I do have great concerns with.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Medium
we
density.
appreciate hearing them. We do listen to them. We want you to know
Yeah.
we've changed the rules on this council so that we listen even better than we ever
Thank
used
you.
to.
We're
So,
doing a good job.
okay, so
Thank you.
I'm Nora Hanson, and I live right on the corner of 585 East, where the street comes and butts with that little driveway there. The access road that you said they do have clearance for is going to go into that other subdivision there on 535 East, is that right? Is that where it's going to go?
Yes. 535 East, yes, ma'am.
But it's not going to come out onto Washington Fields Road.
Well,
build one part of it.
Well,
there's an existing access on the south side that it is on a
yes,
Washington
that's
Fields
right
Road.
across from my house.
Correct.
My
And then there will be
concern-
another access going up to 535 and coming out of Heritage Fields.
Yeah, we've been told this road has been designed to handle 20,000 cars. That's the bigger perspective.
Washington Fields Road.
Yes.
Correct.
Which is on the other side of my wall. When we moved there in 11, we had street parking there. We have an access gate on that street, which we'll never be able to use. We have Jake breaks and things going off at all hours, starting at 5:30 in the morning. We have speeding and racing happening throughout the night. My bedroom's on that end. The quality of my life with all these changes has definitely changed. We went to the fields because of what it was, 2-lane roads, and I understand about the growth. I'm just saying for those people that live on that Washington Fields Road, and as you can see on Meadow Lane, we are a locked street. We pull out of our yard, and the stop sign is back about 10 to 14 feet into our yard. So you have to come way out to even see the traffic, and it's moving faster than it's designed, than it's supposed to be posted to be moving. When we have the runners and the bicycles, races and things that are going on down there, we can't even hardly get out of our road. They will not stop to let us out. We are just stuck. And I realize it's just the more families that come, the more that they allow on smaller parcels of property, more people. It just makes the area really congested. Washington Fields Road and Washington Dam Road right there has always been a busy intersection. We have a light that has come in there since we moved in, and then we have the one up on the other corner. There's no reprieve for us if things get too messy in the middle there. And that's my biggest concern, is that it's like having a freeway down there. And so for every road that comes back out onto that road in that block area, it's just a higher risk factor for accidents. And we've had several little bloopers that's happened out there with people walking and their dogs getting killed, things like that already. So the amount of cars they're planning on dumping in that area for all of us to contend with, and we only have one entrance or exits to our property areas, we have no other option. That is the road we have to use. It's a concern. Okay,
So where we're going to be, I'm going to have to vote on this very soon, but your opinion on these 3 properties here?
I just think they're being overloaded. I would like to have seen regular homes being built in there, but I do understand looking at the properties, and I look at them a lot. They are in a problem spot. That was a trade that the city did when they took the fronts of those homes away. They traded and gave that property to those people that, that's lost part of their yards. I would rather see don't know. I just think they're overloading them for the space that's there.
Thank you.
And I want to make sure they have adequate parking for company. I don't want that congestion. We don't have anybody that parks on our streets in Meadow Lane. I'd hate to see that change too, where when people don't have access or have parking facilities to park their cars, then they start parking out on the streets in front of people's homes. And that's something you don't see a lot of in that whole area with the low density. Everybody pretty much parks in their garages. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Ida Jorgensen, and I live at 606 Meadow Lane. And as I've sat here and listened to you all, I really appreciate your candidness and your concern about this. And the thing that I would like to address, besides the things that have been said, is the safety issue. If you'll think about a square from 2000 South going that way, and then Washington Fields going this way, and then Dam Road over here, we haven't really, even though we've had this and talked about it in so many different meetings, we really haven't talked about the safety issue. This property that we're talking about now is only just a tiny little bit. There will be that many people that would coming onto the road. But if you think about as you drive up and down there, if you think of all the accesses that are going to be put on that one block, you've got the two church houses, the two major church houses in our Meadow Lane are on this side. And then you've got the property that we're talking about tonight. And then if they're going to put commercial exits in there, that road is so loaded. I think it's probably going to be one of the most dangerous blocks in Washington County. That's just too much to put on that road. And we've asked to say, are you doing traffic control? Are you listening? Because as she said, we can hardly get out of our driveway. Now, the road between that property that we're talking about now and our driveway is just enough that it doesn't quite make it straight across. You can't put another light in there because you've got one at Dam and you've got one at 2000. And the thing about the Washington Fields Pass that goes up to Staley Farms, the problem is there's so much construction going on there. I mean, we have huge trucks going through there so fast, and there's a blind corner there at 2000 South. It's really scary because the kids have to walk that way. You cannot see the church entranceway. I've written letters about this. When you come through that exit, that road on Washington Fields or on 2000, you cannot, and you turn on there, immediately you see 40-mile sign. Well, if you're not familiar with that, you cannot see the church entrance, but you go around that one more resident piece of property and you're sitting right at a blind exit to that church house. All those trucks and all those people that are coming through, they don't know what's happening. And somebody's going to be killed. There's not only that load of traffic coming from the airport and all that construction, but then you talk about Dam Road and all that's coming on there. Here we are, we're on that one little block. There's so much traffic and nobody's listening. How can we, if anything else, and we're not talking about the Nyson property, but if there was anything could possibly save us would be that there's no exit off in that housing development that adds to the traffic. I mean, if you consider the cars and you're trying to that's the way the kids walk. That's the way everybody tries to get through. And if there was any one thing that I could say, please consider that. How are you going to solve the problem with that one block, with all of those cars coming and all of the commercial? We, as residents, it's really dangerous. Besides, it's noisy. People are not considerate as they go through there. Now, my feeling about that small piece of property, I don't know whether any of you, I ask you to go and drive on that tiny little road. You know, we've talked about this, but drive into that property and drive that tiny little road that goes on the hillside. I mean, there's a 1-lane highway there, I mean, road. Now they say that they're going to put another exit in there so that you can go on out into Heritage Field. And they said the fire truck can go there. Yes, they can, but that's about it. And the people that are buying that property, the developer bought this in good faith. But if you think about the cement wall that's going to go down there, they've got the hill, they've got the cement wall. And in previous meetings, the question was asked, okay, how do you get where's your garbage going to go? It's got to go out on Washington Fields Road. Unless you put gates in there, those people have got to haul their garbage all the way around and put their garbage. There's no way to get, you know, from where they live into Washington Fields. And if they don't put up a cement wall, it's going to be really serious. Their front yards are going to be really small. I just think, and they're sitting in the middle of a major intersection that's only going to get worse. If they don't require them to put in the higher walls, the people that are living down there at that bottom end by the light are going to be facing all that, the light and the traffic noise and all of that. There's got to be some way to protect the people. That's the thing I worry about. I feel sorry for the people because they need to be protected from the traffic and the noise. Somehow it's got to happen. And I think it's not only the developer, but I think in making requirements of what's going to happen that you all have to help protect them. You know, they can make a choice if they want to buy the property or whatever. But I would ask that you, as you consider this property and as you consider the Nyson property, that you realize the impact of just that one. If you only took the one road, and I've asked, do you have road infrastructure ready? You know, I mean, you're going to put, now, Drew and I disagree. The Sullivans, when they said it, they were going to put in 1,500 people. 1,500 people, all those cars, everything in that tiny little piece of property. The streets are narrow. You can't park on Washington Fields. They've narrowed the lanes down so they can cram more people in there. I mean, I know that we want to have people have housing, but they need to be protected. I mean, we need to allow people not only to have a house, but we need to let them have a house that's a decent house. It has a yard. It has streets that are a correct width, that they have a park and all. We're not lacking for land here. We have lots and lots of dirt and land, you know? It's all over the place. So why are we allowing them to cram people in here? We're not in New York. We're not in Washington, D.C. We have an area where we could make our city beautiful. And if they want to put more people in this area, let's do it, but let's make it so that we aren't overpopulating it. We're not making people, every time I come to one of these meetings, and I need to stop, but every time I come to one of these meetings, I hear about residential areas and developers are doing, you know, whatever they're doing. They have a second parcel of land. Guess what? The land plots are smaller. The roads are smaller. The access roads into those residential areas are fewer. And I think we can do better than this. I mean, we have land. This is a great state, and this is a great Washington area. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
You hit on a good point with us living right there on the corner. We already have, there's a mailbox on Washington Fields Road, if you can imagine, and there's nowhere to pull off. It's all lanes. And the garbage cans and the recycled cans are already being left on the sidewalks and not taken in every week. That's a start of what I consider a deterioration of the environment that we're in. People need to be accountable. And if they're going to have to walk those around to get service there, they still need to clean up after themselves. I mean, that is a busy, busy road, and the traffic is really moving. Thanks, you guys.
Anybody else? Any developers want to come up, Scott?
Good evening. Appreciate the opportunity to stand here and talk to you a little bit about this.
I appreciate you.
Oh, my name's Matt Green.
I appreciate you chuckling at my joke. You were the only one.
You're great. I wish I come to these meetings for the comedy. No, I kid, but no, I just wanted to stand and kind of see if I can alleviate some of the concerns that are going on here. A couple things you ought to know is I grew up in the Washington Fields. I was there before anyone else, frankly. So, you know, this growth has encroached upon my family probably as much or more than anyone in this room. So anyway, it is what it is. One thing you should know is when we bought these parcels of land, we got all three. We got the house on the north and the two building lots to the south of it. My own brother lives in the house in the north. So I'm not here to do something selfishly to make some money that's going to impact my brother in a negative way. He's on board with what we've designed to do there. I feel like we took a really terrible home that was really quite unlivable, made it livable, made it usable, and hopefully we'll be able to do the same thing with those two other building lots at the same time as protecting the people that live there. Just go through a couple of the concerns. Access to the north will help with cars turning out onto that main road from the small access there on the south.
How's the garbage collection going to be handled?
You know, at this point, they do it on the south end, but when that access to the north is open, we can put our garbage cans out there on that public road that comes through the subdivision there on the north side. So it shouldn't be a concern.
So where are they doing it at now again?
The problem is right now the trucks can't turn around. They can't get in there and make a loop. So
they
but
are
if there's an
collecting
outlet,
us?
So,
then they
yeah,
go
so
in
right-
one way and out the other, then
Yeah, right.
they're fine.
But when the access to the north is pushed through, they will be able to actually take a much shorter walk to put their garbage cans out. Right here. That's where that access will go through, right there. So the garbage access will not be on that busy road. You won't have garbage cans sitting there anymore, at least for the homes that we're working on.
Well, and if
So-
that's where their garbage cans are, probably they're going to drive there more often. to get to the
And
garbage
theoretically, it
can
could.
in the other direction.
We've had dump trucks in there, concrete trucks, without any issues. It keeps being said that they're little itty bitty roads and tiny properties, but they're actually quite large lots. And the road's 20 feet wide, so there's not enough traffic coming and going from there that would be a concern. But yes, a garbage truck could go through there. So. One thing that was talked about is these units being two levels. We've even thrown up the thought of maybe doing a single level with a basement that's still a duplex. It will appear as a single story home from the back, and that way we could avoid some of the noise issues that are there. You know, really, our thought comes down to it's all about economics on these lots. It really does come down to money. I'm not out here trying to be filthy rich. I probably have less money than a lot of people in this room. But you know, the alternative with these lots, and I think this is what the city is probably worried about, is that somebody's going to come put a modular home and a chain link fence on that main road. We don't want that. But at the end of the day, if that's the only thing we can do from an economic perspective, no one wants that. And so we really are here to try and put something nice there, something that's going to contribute to the community. 3 more families is not going to overload anything that's not already there. I mean, the cat's kind of already out of the bag with what's there. I mean, it's there, it's approved, we can build homes on it. Families are going to move in there eventually, and we'd like to be able to add to that. So, fire truck access. I think we've kind of talked about the concerns that I felt like were brought up. Do you have any questions for me at this point?
You're going to rent these or sell them, or?
We would like to hold on to them long term. It's kind of been our game plan from the beginning. So, and they will be at the way it's that I understand, they will be a duplex. They're not going to be a townhome that can be divided and sold off in separate units. It will be a real bona fide duplex. So,
Single tax ID.
single tax ID,
Somebody
single.
buys it,
Yep.
they're buying-
If someone buys it, they got to buy both sides. And so it's not something that can be subdivided and sold off, so to speak, in different directions. So,
Matt, one, just probably a little premature at this general plan stage of things, but just one point of concern that I'd have, especially as you mentioned, these are going to be rented to families, is where are the kids going to play? Where are the kids with what's there? And so that's something that as it
Sure.
comes through with your design and stuff, I would
Sure.
just make sure that you plan accordingly.
just an initial concept, initial thought there is the units that I've looked into are like 70 feet wide and like 63 feet deep. The lots are 130 feet deep. They're going to have a really nice backyard, probably to the point where it's probably more than I'm going to want to take care of on a Saturday afternoon, but that's
Just,
probably the
I
way
guess
it's going to be.
Premature on this one, but
Yeah.
just food for thought coming back.
Yep. And then that, the Nights and Hill, from what I understand, is going to be open to the public as a park. That'll be another place that they'll be able to go. In fact, my brother's kids are probably on that hill every day. But anyway, so I don't think that should be too much of a concern. There will be 3 total duplexes, 6 units.
Maybe, Matt, this is just a suggestion, and it's probably a minor suggestion. Maybe you ask for public if they could come down and just pick up at the houses rather than in that corner over there.
Oh, sorry, say that
Garbage,
again.
the garbage.
Oh, okay.
Just I'd check with them. Then they don't, they just go out front or back, whatever it's going to be, and
Sure. Oh, one of the other things that was talked about, we talked about this in the previous meeting, but when we do build those block walls across that whole thing, we do have to leave open space. So essentially an offset block wall for fire access. The fire marshal has already decided that any fires that potentially happen there will be fought from Washington Fields Road. That they are not going to be pulling in.
One of my, I guess, as I'm kind of finishing my thoughts on this, and this may be just rhetoric, but I'm considering the concerns of the residents at Meadow Lane and considering if anyone had to live in these lots that you're developing, would their concerns be any different? Because I feel like they'll have similar concerns that already exist. With that being said, these aren't the prime lots of the fields. When we say the fields, these homes have some significant impact to traffic. They have significant impact to noise. Whatever does go in there, you're going to have to try to mitigate a lot of different things. Being a person who lives across the street from duplexes and someone who used to live next to I-15 with my baby's nursery right next to all those wonderful vehicle noises, I do look forward to options that allow people who would like to look at that lot and see its value. And I don't think we're going to get multi-million-dollar homes. Neither people who are retiring and saying, this is our best place, let's buy this lot. So there are some concerns of what's the best interest for the community. I can see some very good interests for all the community to have this developed and have good residents. So interesting thoughts, just voicing some opinion on this. I appreciate what you said.
back up. We're still in the public hearing.
Is the access road going to remain gravel or will it be asphalt?
For now, it's gravel. It will really come down to a matter of how much it's going to cost to put pavement down there. If we can get all the parties involved to help pay for that, we would obviously love to have pavement there. Ultimately, that's something we've talked about. We would love to have. It will all just come down to whether or not we can split those costs among all the homeowners and economically if it's
You might have to strong arm your brother.
going to work. I got him taken care of. No, but no, ultimately that's what we'd like, only because it's just so much nicer. Nobody wants to be dealing on a dirt road. So, and at the end of the day, it's probably not going to be such a large cost that we couldn't pull it off. So, I mean, you're going to have to make it nice enough that someone wants to live there at the end of the day. Yeah, they're
We don't have to go through the plat.
yeah, they're already platted, so just the zoning.
Oh, absolutely.
I think I mentioned this already, but the lots are really quite deep, which will allow for a nice driveway. I think we probably have setbacks off those lots of what, 25 feet. Also, the width of the units that we've looked into would allow for parking on both sides of the house, and then they will hopefully have a 2-car garage on each of those units. So, you know, the initial parking will be in the garages. I would anticipate that most families in here will be young families, where a 3rd car is probably not going to happen, but if it did, shouldn't have any problem parking either in a driveway or on the side of the house. So.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Any other questions for him? All right, anybody else? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second.
Correct, aye.
Fellas and I.
Granger, aye.
Clough, aye.
Ward, aye.
Thank you. That will be made, the decision will be made in our next city council meeting on the 12th. Okay, we'll move on to item 9, annexations. Item A, consideration to approve an ordinance extending the corporate limits of Washington State to include the Whitworth Addition annexation, parcel of real property located approximately 2250 south between 20 east and 240 west.
Mayor, if there's not any more discussion, since we just had our public hearing on this and had no one speak to it, I'll make the motion that we approve the annexation of the Whitworth Addition annexation.
I'll second that motion.
A motion and a second.
Ward, aye. Clough, aye.
Granger, aye.
Fellas and I.
Correct, aye.
All right, that is approved. Item B, consideration to approve an ordinance extending the corporate limits of Washington City to include the Long Valley annexation of a parcel of real property located approximately 3380 East Washington Dam Road, south to Long Valley Road.
I think I'll follow suit with Councilman Turek if there's nothing further to discuss on this.
I apologize. Did we zone that last
No,
one?
Actually, I thought about that after to make
Can
that
we go
an
back and amend that?
Oh,
Bring that in with an R112.
there you go.
We gotta have a new vote, new motion, new vote.
Can you amend it?
I should be, oh, yeah.
I'll make a new motion on
Yeah,
it.
we'll just have a new motion.
I'll make a new motion that we approve the annexation of the Whitworth Addition and bring it in with an R12 zoning.
R112.
R1.
R1, yes.
Second.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, motion and a second.
Turek, aye.
Fellas and I.
Granger, aye.
Clough, aye.
Ward, aye.
Okay, now, what's that?
I seconded it.
All right, now go ahead, Councilman Blood. Clough.
So on with item B here, 9B. If there's no further discussion, I'd like to make the motion to approve the ordinance extending the corporate limits of Washington City to include the Long Valley annexation parcel of property located approximately 3380 East Washington Down Road, south to Long Valley Road, with the condition of zoning at this time as being PUD.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Turek, aye.
Fellas and I.
Granger, aye.
Clough, aye.
Ward, aye.
All right, that's also approved. Item 10, agreement, consideration to approve the amended regional water supply agreement. Mr. Mike Shaw.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes. Article 1, page 1.
Fairtown of Verona.
It's 93 pages. We'll get through this quick.
Sounds a good read.
Our last work session that we had, we went over the document. Really kind of come down to one question council had, and that was on the operating plan as part of the document. So after the meeting, I've actually sat down with the Conservancy District and we've talked about this. In the past, we've ran it for the Technical Advisory Committee, which we meet monthly on. The plan has just been an ongoing thing with the advisory committee. Anything that goes on, we discuss it. That's how we run it. That's how we're operating it. But with this, we're going to actually start now and do a written plan. So probably starting at our next meeting, we'll start working through this and get a written plan and have it part of this document. So be fairly easy to do the plan. It's just put everything in writing, what we've been going through for the past 10 or so years.
Questions for Mike?
See, I'm just double checking on this. Did they find out the one where it just seemed like it ended into nowhere? Did that get resolved?
Yes.
That one?
Yeah, that was actually just a typo.
Just a typo. Okay. Well, that's my only one.
Some words got added on that didn't need to be there.
Well, if there's no other discussion on this, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the amended regional water supply agreement as proposed to us tonight.
I have a motion and a second.
Ward, aye.
Clough, aye.
Granger, aye.
Bellson, aye.
Burke, aye.
Thank you.
Councilman Bellison, second. And that motion. Item 11, funding allocation. Consideration to approve the reallocation of one-time funds relating to the community center improvements. Barry Blake.
Well, Barry's coming up. Can I explain just quickly why this is before you this way? In the budget process, well, there's a couple of reasons. One is, as you remember, we had a long, lengthy list of capital improvements that we looked at and prioritized. And of course, there was some discussion on as funds are available, if we could continue to look at some of those. I think actually Councilman Granger, you were one that talked about that, if I remember correctly. So this is kind of part of that, because one of the items that Barry will talk about has come in well below what we anticipated the budget would be. And so they've tried to move a couple of other items up. Now, let me explain this though, from a budgetary standpoint. There is no net increase to the budget, so it will not come to you as a budget opening. And quite frankly, as the budget officer, we could just swap those funds around within the department without legislative action. However, they combined and especially since they're all a few $1,000s, they're all under $20,000, but collectively they were $23,000. So I indicated it probably would be best to have them just come before you, have you look at them and note any concerns you might have or answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Thank you, Council and Mayor. So as Mr. Carter said, we are coming to before you. The community center received a one-time funding, as was explained, for this year's budget for some maintenance and some restructuring of the stairs that go up to the splash, not the splash pad, but to the water slide.
When you say restructuring of the stairs, are you replacing them? Are you strengthening them?
Yeah, we're taking the old ones are, you know, we're looking at almost 11 years old. They were out of concrete with the
constant water,
and they're falling apart. They're coming down chunks on people and they're expensive. As we looked at, we could never really afford it, and as we looked at prices and different things, and then when this one-time funding came up, it was a great opportunity for us to do that. Watts Construction actually got prices from several people. This $48,000 was the price that they gave us, and since then they've had other people. I don't know if they did an RFP or how they did that, but somebody else had put in a price that they looked at and we looked at. It was significantly lower. $25,000 for those steps, and so that remains $23,000 left. And I don't know if you have the sheet. This is what we'd like to allocate that money for, reallocate that for. Are there any questions on those 4 items?
Where did the money within your budget come from that's being reallocated?
That came from the one-time funding, the excess money that the city had.
We had a number of, we had, I don't even remember what the grand total was. I have to
100 and something.
Yeah, we had almost a couple $100,000.
Yeah.
We brought you a priority list, and theirs was several things, but the stairs was one of them, and because the stairs is coming in less, so it was just, I think it was excess fund balance.
Yeah, it was.
Remind me to tell you something exciting when I'm all done.
So it was excess fund balance,
excess fund balance,
and we were asked to submit those things that are the most important, and these stairs, of course, were one of them. We've been wanting to fix them and get them done for so long.
Are you going to use a whole different material? What are you going to do?
It's a high density plastic, molded plastic.
Yeah.
It's rough.
Yeah,
it's rough,
nice
so it's non-slip and thick and heavy. So it's a good. We've looked at it this material, and that's what it's used for. So
I just have one question for our chief budget official. Obviously, this is through our general fund process, and so I guess I would ask the question of, are these items that we're looking at purchasing are most needed out of our general fund, because ultimately that fund's allocated through that fund. So would you look at those items and say they are probably what our city needs the most out of
Yeah,
the general
because
fund side of things?
mostly because I felt good about the 48,000. As a matter of fact, we had, and it was more than that. It was totally, it was, and I'm sorry that I don't remember these totals, but it was more than that because there were some other items. So, for instance, they're repainting the structure, they're getting some new chairs and that.
Correct.
The 48,000 was assigned to the stairs, which was actually our highest priority,
Yeah.
and that it's coming less. But the problem is we're 10 years old. We're 10 and a half years old.
No,
at the
I'm
community
talking, no, that part of it I'm fine with. I guess the question I ask is as a budgetary process, these came in at 28,000 instead of 45. And rather than say, well, we gave that to the community center, it's part of the general fund. Are these the chillers that we're looking at replacing our next highest priority general fund?
Well, and those I can explain too.
Well, and real quick from the general fund, I guess the simplest answer is I'd say yes. I would just assume because keep it at the community center because we got enough needs going up there.
Well, I guess that's where I get
All I'm-
heartburn to say, well, we gave it to the community center, it can't go anywhere else. Well, they're part of the big picture here.
Well, I would say every one of
We've
these
taken
things,
from other big pictures to help them in times past.
every one of these things is really needed other than the last one, the Joe Mac, the vacuum. It's
No,
kind of a, you know, that's
That's
kind of
not
a.
his argument.
That's kind of a.
Yeah, I'm not
need is
arguing
not
whether
the
they're
issue.
needed. I just would ask
Okay.
if that's
No,
needed the worst.
Well, and again,
you know what it is when your mom and dad, it's like, do we need peanut butter or do we need steaks?
Sure.
You know, type things.
the reason I can say this without a deep analysis is because we already kind of made that decision of $48,000 in comparison to the other needs in the community
I
or
understand.
departments.
No, I understand.
And so that's why I still
guess-
feel that priority has stayed the same.
Yeah, I guess I'm not articulating myself.
No, I got
very
it. I got it.
Well
You know, he's
understood.
saying if there's $24,000
Correct.
available, it should be available through the general plan to
Correct.
any
And to
department.
contrast
That's what I'm saying.
this,
If we budget for a car at 38,000, it only costs us 20,000 to say, well, we've got to put 12,000 into the car still yet.
right.
We're saying, look, there's $12,000 we can now allocate. What's the next highest need within that?
One of my
within that
contrasts to
frame?
support what Councilman Turk is saying is one of the requests was body armor and stuff and improvements for our police officers. And we were looking at $11,000 price tag, if I remember roughly around there. So I'm thinking $23,000 is not a small thing where there are high needs within our city. You know, a lot can be put into that. Hearing both sides of that, I guess the part where I feel on this is, are we disservicing the other people that are a part of this allocation by furthering improvements now on this area where money was already designated, freeing up funds for other things for those other places later on? If there's nothing that's truly pressing on those, this kind of just lets us put money in a place that's still addressing need, which was the purpose of this fund, but then freeing up when we have that opportunity later on to move it down. I'm not aware of anything that was put on that list that's a flyer in a sense of needs to be addressed right now.
Yeah.
And so with that being the problem is, if there was something that I was aware of or that you could let us know, Mr. Carter, is there anything that truly has a higher pressing order? And I think that's, we just need to know that as a council before we say, you know what, glad you got a lower bid, keep on spending it in the area where you're at with your needs. I think we need to have that assurance as a council.
Yeah, I don't think that without fully analyzing again, there's anything that jumps out to me. And kind of to your point just a minute ago is I'm just resolving probably a withdrawal I'm going to do from another fund 2 years down the road when I need to do this anyway. And so but I do understand what you're saying, and I do understand that if there is a higher pressing need, I don't feel like there necessarily is that would have dissuaded me from saying this would be fine to keep within the community center.
That's what I need to know. Thank you.
That was the question.
You were making a comment about the vacuum. Were you saying that it is a high priority? You need this, or what would you?
And I can explain these. So the aquatics chiller, it's gone. It's in an area that it's corrosive, and the new one that we're going to do is coated to prevent that. So right now we have some issues with some condensation with the air and stuff, and that's what helps us. It's in a very bad environment, and that coil is gone. The main chiller coil, we've had a leak for a number of years, and we are right to the end of. We can only recharge and do it so many times by the EPA, and we're to that. It's expensive to recharge, and we keep losing that, and so that's that's a high priority. It's something that we have to get done. The Lazy River cover is 12 years old, almost 11 years old. Its lifespan is 10 to 12 years. And so it's getting beat up and almost shot. And so that's something that it's just a necessity to do. The vacuum is not as much. It's a convenient. It will save some manpower. We can put that vacuum in at night, and it's an automatic. You can go through the pool and do it at night instead of have maintenance people do that. And so, you know, it is a cost up front, but we'll save money down the road.
What was your plan for these items absent the windfall here? You were looking at doing each of these in a couple of years?
We always try to put them in the budget. We every year we look at it, we do it, and the budget gets whittled away, and some things we keep and some things we can't. But these have been things that we've needed for a few years. Yeah.
Thank you, Barry. Any other questions for Barry? I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the reallocation of one-time funds relating to the center improvements.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second.
Thank you.
Ward, aye. Clough, aye.
Granger, aye.
Allison, aye.
Turek, aye.
All right. It's approved. Thank you, Barry. Roger, thank you. Anything to report from your assigned committees?
Can I just throw something up that was an email from Mrs. Russell? She's worried about the rocks up on the top in a wall crashing down.
Okay.
Would you get us an answer when you get an answer? Okay.
I'm meeting with the public works guy that's over that, hopefully tomorrow. I mean, she's still gonna have rocks. It's just they're probably in one place. They're gonna get, I've already got one of the set being moved back, but the real problematic one, I'm meeting with them to find out what happened there. But all it's gonna do is just push them back 10 feet.
Well, if there was if we had a tremor and those things crash, she's right. They come right down on their heads. We know that that's a development problem to some degree because they built too close to the rocks.
Well, like I say, we went through all those discussions. I think you were here when we went
I
through
was
all
here. We went through all of that, but
That was probably our first meeting. Held that one
I have
up
some empathy for them looking at all those big rocks.
But I'm
sitting
going
right above
to,
their homes.
I'm meeting with them tomorrow. I went out today
Great.
just to see what the pictures showed one thing, but going out makes it a lot different. I already met with the one developer, Mr. Anderson, Wayne, who's building the one house. I told him what he goes, oh, I'll have that, my part. That's a smaller section. The one that's farther down with the big pictures, we're going to see what's going on there. Yep.
Russell, it deleted itself on my.
Cheryl.
It's the same one. Well, it's the same lady we've met with all the time. No, I just barely got those pictures today. I don't want to call her and let her know I haven't done. I'm going to let her. I'm going to find out tomorrow. I'm meeting with Brandon from Public Works. We're going to go up and I'm going to.
If you just let her know you're working on it,
Yeah.
All right, if nothing, we'll go to city manager report.
So sorry, on the resolution for that, you're saying that if they need to move those rocks back?
The concern that would come up is that and again, I don't know, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever.
Almost three.
Just three. We had this discussion with those residents and there was some concern about how they were placing them and how close to the ledge they were placing them. There was some direction given to them from the city, meaning the developers up there. Her concern is that they're not, I get the impression that she feels that they're not in compliance, so Drew's going to get out and see what's going on.
At the time, Drew and I walked it and looked at the property pins and property markers.
Yeah.
And where it was shown, I wasn't too concerned with. Now, if they've encroached on that, then there's a problem, but.
Well, you may want to take them up and let them see how solidly built and why it's reasonable, if it's reasonable, so that they have some assurance, because when they look up there, all they see are these great big rocks.
It does, that hillside does come up, but then it turns and kind of flattens out.
And then it comes
Right,
down.
so they're not building on that slope side, they're building on the flat side.
Back, but they're
Or at
building
least
high
what
and
was
they can
marked
see
when
it.
I walked it with Drew.
There was actually, at the time that was approved, there was a do not encroach line that was approved up in there, that they could not encroach beyond that.
But that's not exactly what she's saying. She's saying that they were told that there weren't going to be any big rock walls up there.
Well,
Except for one.
No,
That's
she
not
was
what she's
told
saying,
that
but
there
within
were.
that encroachment area. That's what because she knew there would be some rock walls up there.
Yeah, we
But it
discussed
just
it.
couldn't be within that.
I think I don't remember.
Okay.
At
Look forward to seeing a resolution on that.
Real quick, Mayor, just a couple of items that I'll bring up. As far as a flood update, Main Street, we're continuing to work. I actually talked to Sitla today, not on this topic, but they brought up this topic that we're still working with Sitla on some land acquisition issues. And of course, that's just a process. So we're continuing through that process and then working on trying to get the BREO participation, but they are actively engaged in those processes. And these are for the debris basins. Okay. So those are actively and going on. It doesn't sound like that's anything new, and really it isn't, but the progress is moving forward with that. Washington Parkway, this is the extension to the north up into the Green Springs area. They're working through the design and the environmental assessment. I'm assuming that'll probably be we're hoping and we think it'll be a Cat X, right? It means it's exempt from an environmental impact statement. We would assume that will be the case, but you still have to go through that process to determine that. So that's what's happening on that.
What makes it exempt there?
Just not issues of sensitivity. Mike, maybe you can explain all of it.
I'm gonna go move some turtles over there.
Mike and I moved that. That was the problem. We moved that one turtle right in the right of way.
It's the prior disturbance is really what it is, where we had laid the water line in there in the prior disturbance. It's not in sensitive areas, no sensitive species, plant life. They still go through, we still do the review. So they've already done the tortoise review, they've already done the plant review, and there's no impacts. So we still go through a process, it's just not a formal environmental impact study.
I saw a truck run over it.
I joked about that, but I will tell you the story. We were having a pretty good rainstorm one night. Mike and I were out looking, and we came around that to milepost 13, and there was a tortoise moving out on the road, on the frontage road. So Mike picked it up, took it over to the borrow pit, and don't tell me turtles are slow, because by the time we went to pull out, it was moving back onto the road. So I picked it up, and this is also why they're going extinct.
This is a public record.
So then I moved it back to the borrow pit, but just a little further. And I mean, it was just coming down in buckets, the rain. And sure enough, that turtle turned right around and started heading. So Mike and I ended up not wanting to get any more wet. We just kept kind of herding it with the front of our trucks to try to keep it from getting out on the road. Mike had called to get HCP out there. By the way, law enforcement showed up too, but he popped out just long enough to find out we had it under control, and then he didn't want to get any more wet. So he left, but HCP came and scooped him up and put him in a plastic bucket and put him someplace further away, but
nice and safe.
Turtle herder.
That was a good sized tortoise.
Corey Kessler, city staff moving tortoises. I'll make a note of that.
All right. Hurting them with their truck tires.
I don't think Maury can print anything if he's not willing to be here. Real quick, final couple items. As you know, this upcoming year, of course, the Boilers area park and development is at least on our schedule. And of course, part of what we've been working on, of course, is that land exchange to line up that intersection. And so we're hoping to have that exchange agreement. Ball Ventures is the property owners that we're working with, and we're hoping to have that agreement within the next 30 days or so. I did want to mention, I think I mentioned to you quietly, but I don't think I got that right. I think it's 12/6.
Excess fund balance.
The awards luncheon is on 12/6 instead of 12/7. And it'll actually go from 11 to 1, and we do it that long of a time period so those staff members have to rotate up and keep the desks covered and that. But the awards portion, this is our Employee of the Year and Department of the Year, will happen about noon if you can find that to work. I know I'd sent 7th out, but we're going to move that to the 6th. Yeah, because we'll just do the awards right at noon. That'll get more of a crowd there that will be there. At the community center, that reception room, I believe, the one's right off the front desk. And then we'll spend a little bit more time on this at the next meeting because you'll be presented the audit for last fiscal year. But I will tell you, because we're very proud of this, and I want to give a lot of credit to the council too, because and maybe even I'll single out Councilwoman Granger a little bit because this is a question she has all the time to us, and so it keeps us on our toes. But I appreciate the council's understanding of how and the proper function of a fund balance. And it's a lot of pride to tell you that as of June 30th, we completely maxed out our fund balance again by state statute. And that was a lot faster than we thought we would.
What is that again? 6 million?
Rainy day fund.
I know, but what's the balance limitation? When
It's
we-
25% of the
25%.
revenues of the general fund. And so it has to be calculated every year by the auditors to determine what that is, since that varies. And so it's not just an easy figure. We can come up with a somewhat, ballpark figure, but it has to be calculated each year. But I didn't think we'd be there still for another year or two.
We're gonna put it in a little protected fund where you can't get at it then.
Well, you missed the part, Councilwoman, where I complimented you on knowing how we should use a rainy day fund. Because that's, and really the credit is due, because, when those times come up that the council and the staff feels, such as when the economy was really slowing down and we needed to dip into that, you guys recognize that. Sometimes you get into situations where they simply want to create a savings account and not want to use it, which is not its purpose. And quite frankly, that's why the state limits it. That's right. You're exactly right. So I appreciate that. But I thought that would be great news for all of you. And that's
Thank you. We do have a need to go to a closed session to discuss the character or professional competence of an individual. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn. We'll take a 5-minute break and
So
meet in
moved.
the council.
Second. Mayor, I'll make a motion that we leave our council meeting and move into a closed session in 5 minutes after our break.
Second.